In this video, I'm going to show you how to light the slow and sear as well as set it up for different kinds of cooking. Coming up. Hi, I'm Ryan from the Adrenaline Barbecue Company, and today I'm going to show you how to light your slow and sear for 3 different kinds of cooking: low and slow, baking or roasting, and finally searing, and you'll be ready for any kind of cook on your kettle. Low and slow cooking is for cuts of meat that benefit from cooking at low temperatures for a really long time. We're talking about brisket and pork butts that you want to cook at 225 for 8 or more hours, and I'm going to show you exactly how to set up your slow and sear to do it. Before you start your cook, remove any extra ash from the slow and sear, as well as the bottom of your kettle. Then to set it up for low and slow, open up all the vents and then put your favorite starter cube in one corner of the slow and sear. Once lit, add a dozen or so charcoal briquettes on top of the cube and wait about 15 minutes until the briquettes are well lit and the smoke dies down. Next, we're going to put a full chimney of unlit charcoal into the slow and sear with a few chunks of our favorite wood. For fastest smoke, put a chunk of wood directly over the lit charcoal, and don't worry if the grate doesn't shut fully. A little bit of extra charcoal just means it'll burn longer. Next, you add a quart of boiling water into the water reservoir. The reason why you use boiling instead of cold is because the cold water is going to take an incredible amount of heat energy and a lot of time before you're able to get cooking. So the hot water will get you cooking faster. The way that works best for me is I move the easy spin grate out of the way so you get a clear shot into the water reservoir, and you carefully pour it on the side opposite where you lit the coals. You'll notice that the reservoir is not full. For best results, add a quart of water and don't fill it to the top. Place your temperature probe about 1 inch from the surface of the grate and 2 inches from the meat. I'm using the Maverick XR50 to measure the temperature of the food grate rather than trusting the lid thermometer. When you put the lid on, you'll see exactly why. When you put the lid on, you want to make sure that the vent is on the opposite side of the slow and sear. And the reason why you do that is because the heat will come up, it'll go over the meat and out the vent, and you get better convection and more even cooking. Now the reason why you can't trust this lid thermometer is if you look, it's directly over the slow and sear, but your food is going to be over here. Once the kettle's reached 150 degrees, it's time to start pulling those vents back a little bit, and I'll show you how to do it. A good rule of thumb is to set the top vent to about 1/3 open and the bottom vent to about 1/4 open. Once the kettle settles around 225 degrees and has been burning long enough that the smoke turns from white like this to more clear, you're ready to put your meat on. Baking and roasting on the slow and sear is characterized by cooking at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to result in some really crispy skin. So whether you're doing a chicken or the holiday turkey, or maybe even Steve's ziti recipe that he showed on this channel earlier, this is the method that you're going to use to light your slow and sear. Light a half chimney of charcoal however you'd like. Now I can tell when the charcoal's done by the smoke that comes off of it. At first it comes off really white and you don't want that on your food. Wait until it gets a little bit more clear with a few heat waves on top. That ensures that you get proper heat and that the ignition smoke is gone so you don't have any off-putting taste. Now starting off with a half chimney of lit charcoal works really well if you want to do a cook that's 90 minutes or less. So that works well for chicken, but for something like a turkey we're going to cook longer. And what you do is you take another half chimney of charcoal and you put it in the slow and sear. Now if you already have some in there, you can just go ahead and use that, and then you put the lit charcoal right on top. It doesn't matter if you're doing a short cook or a long cook, you always start with a half a chimney of fully lit charcoal when you want to cook at 325 degrees Fahrenheit. Now the vent settings are going to be pretty similar to low and slow, with a 1/4 open on the bottom and a 1/2 open on top. Now you may have to change those for your own circumstances, but it's still a good place to start. And one other thing, if you're baking or roasting the slow and sear, you don't want to add water to the reservoir. The reason for that is that water will take up a lot of heat. You'll have a hard time reaching the temperatures of 325 degrees. Now let's say you wanted to cook at temperatures higher than 325 degrees Fahrenheit. One easy modification is to start with more than a half a chimney of lit charcoal, because more charcoal means more heat. So go ahead, light a little more, and reach those higher temperatures. The slow and sear makes it really easy to get a steakhouse quality crust at home because of the high temperatures you can get in the sear zone. If you want to sear on the slow and sear, all you need to do is start off with a full chimney of lit charcoal. In this case, we strongly recommend that you use charcoal briquettes. If you use lump charcoal, you're going to end up with lumpy heat, and you want a perfectly even layer of coals so that way you get an even sear on your meat.
One of the benefits of the Slow and Sear 2.0 is you can remove the water reservoir for a bigger sear zone, or leave it in for a smaller one and save some charcoal. In either case, you want to make sure you have fully lit charcoal and you fill it up with an even layer, because an even layer means even heat.
Once you've put a fully lit chimney of charcoal in the Slow and Sear, it's time to get your secret weapon. For me, that's the blow dryer. We're going to use this to stoke the fire by blowing off all the extra ash, as well as adding a bunch of extra oxygen, and this will get the fire as hot as possible so we can get that steakhouse quality crust.
It only takes 15 or 20 seconds, and this fire is going to be absolutely ripping hot. And if you're using the cold grate technique, now's the time to put the grate on right before you add the meat. If you want to learn more about the cold grate technique, we have several videos on our channel.
If you're using the reverse sear method, we're going to need to change things up just a little bit. Since you're starting the meat off low and slow, about 15 minutes before you're ready to sear, we're going to light enough charcoal to be able to fill the Slow and Sear. You won't need a full chimney because you already have a bunch going in the Slow and Sear already. And just like that, we showed you 3 different methods for cooking on the Slow and Sear. If you have other questions or other ideas for tutorials, go ahead and put them in the comments below, and we'll get right to them. And remember, the Adrenaline Barbecue Company, we didn't invent the kettle, we perfected it.